What's up, y'all? Robin Lundberg back with you once again here on a Monday. Sorry, a little earlier in the day than usual. Got some practices to get to a meeting I got to do later tonight, so wanted to get the show in. Also, I didn't want to compete directly against the NBA or the WNBA draft. Freudian slip, I guess there. I didn't want to compete directly against the WNBA draft and or the the Monday Night Raw, that show that comes on Monday nights on WWE programming, USA Network. Nowadays, it's not on Netflix yet. I don't know if this is streaming correctly yet, as of yet. So apologies for the awkwardness there off the beginning of the show. But nevertheless, here I am rocking and rolling. I was just trying to check the back end to make sure I was getting to all the destinations appropriately. If not, somebody will let me know, I am sure. But here we go. Anyhow, it was a big weekend for Saturday Night Live. Generally, Saturday Night Live is not such a talked about show, discussed show. I haven't heard it discussed or talked about that much in a long time as it was this past weekend. Hopefully they won't ping me for anything I put on here, but I did want to show some of the stuff from SNL this past weekend. Namely, the I don't know if you guys saw the Beavis and Butthead deal or the Beavis and Butthead skit that they showed at the top of the show, but nonetheless, it says AI Robin malfunction. Garrick Suharik on Twitter. Am I not streaming right? Somebody let me know if I'm not streaming right, because that's supposed to be taken care of on the back end of StreamYard. So I can't really control that if it didn't go right. If not, I'll put the link up on X or Twitter later. I don't know which destinations are working right now or not. Maybe it's just on Twitter, because that's the one I didn't see up. I see Facebook going. I see, looks like YouTube is up and rolling. So perhaps it was just X that did not fire correctly today. Nothing I can do about it, I don't think. At this point, you're just going to have to click the link in the stream there. I apologize if AI Robin is not coming through correctly as a result of that. Again, only so much I can control here. And nonetheless, big weekend for Saturday Night Live. I hope they don't ping me, because I did want to share just a bit of the Beavis and Butthead sketch. If you guys didn't see that, that was so funny over the weekend. So funny. Here was a touch of that sketch. Hopefully NBC doesn't have me take this down, so it's not even more awkward. So that was the sketch. One of the better sketches in recent history for Saturday Night Live, I got to say. That was really, really good. Really, really funny. And not much else to add other than that. So it looks like it is just an X issue, by the way, for those who are wondering. I'll put the link up. Nothing I can do about it other than that if it doesn't actually fix. DP37 says LOL, 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 LOL. And then adds, as someone with ADHD, I connect so deeply to that sketch. Kevin Zwicker says super rare W by SNL. That was a win for Saturday Night Live. Yeah, Beavis. That was mad funny. Really, really funny. And yeah, that's like, there's nothing else to say except for that was funny. And Saturday Night Live also had Caitlyn Clark on, and she was on Weekend Update with Michael Che. She was on Weekend Update with Michael Che. They had a little bit of a back and forth. It was pretty good. I can't get mad at her appearance on Weekend Update. She's now arriving for the WNBA draft, and people are sharing that video and that footage because she's a star. Here she comes. The same music used for almost anything, right? Caitlyn Clark arriving to the WNBA draft. And her bit with Michael Che was good. It was well done. And it played off the fact that Michael Che has not been a huge WNBA fan over the course of his career or his, existence, I guess you would say, because he basically, accused WNBA women of wearing aprons or made a joke about that. Here's a little clip from that. Again, if they ping me or anything, you'll see it removed in the after show, but live you should get it. Roasted him.
Netflix is Indiana Fever is a WNBA team and not what Michael Che gave to dozens of women at Purdue University.
So it really just kind of shows the star power that Caitlyn Clark has right now, of course. Shows the star power that Caitlyn Clark has. Also, it shows that I wonder if my title was too long on X. Maybe that was the issue. I'll see if I can fix that later. I apologize. It's distracting me right now because I see just the link to the actual stream and people can't get in there. But Caitlyn Clark was criticized for going on Saturday Night Live, which I found to be wild, considering the criticism was basically, why weren't the South Carolina girls invited on the show since they won the championship and Caitlyn Clark did not? And it's just that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, because she's a much bigger star, because she is the Michael Jordan of women's basketball, as I've put it, and she's driving the interest in the sport. That's why she was on. It's the same reason Deion Sanders in Colorado were on all the covers and got all the coverage in basketball, because Deion's a big star. They didn't have to win a bunch of championships in order for people to care about it. And Caitlyn Clark has performed at a much higher level than they did. So it's just stupid logic, stupid criticism. And I don't understand why anybody thought it was a good idea to put that out there in the first place. Just stupid. And there's not really much else to say about that. Not really much else to say about it, because it's idiotic. It's idiotic. And that's it looks like I have everything set right. So it must be a malfunction on Twitter side. Apologies. I'm not going to be distracted with that anymore. Just an idiotic thing that people are saying because they're trying to be cute. They're trying to be clever. And in some situations, they're just trying to race bait. Ken says, how is that stupid? Okay. Just the reason I just said it's stupid. Was it stupid that Deion Sanders was it unfair that Deion Sanders got covered despite not winning a championship? No. Deion Sanders drove clicks. He drove interest. People cared about what Deion Sanders had to say. People watched Colorado football games because of Deion Sanders. No disrespect to the South Carolina ladies. Great team. Great team. Deserved champions. Dawn Staley's a great coach. Great program. But Caitlyn Clark's the needle mover. She was on Saturday Night Live because she's more famous and more people care about her and more people are interested. Same as went for Deion. It's not a race thing. And I'll point out, I've never hesitated to point out when I think something is a race thing. That just wasn't a race thing in my mind, and isn't. And, when you look at the South Carolina team, the girls on that team are not as famous or as well known. They won a championship. You can never take that away from them. They beat Caitlyn Clark. You can never take that away from them. No one's disputing that. But she's about to be the number one pick in the WNBA draft. That's what she was on. Ahead of the WNBA draft. It had nothing to do with the college championship. It had everything to do with the WNBA draft, which is tonight. I mean, I could do this as a post show for the WNBA draft, but we all know who's going number one. It doesn't matter. It's not necessary. Because we know Caitlyn Clark is going number one. So I'm sorry. I appreciate all the interaction on the show. You can have your comments. You can say whatever you want, but that is why I would say it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense as a criticism. Doesn't make any sense. So that's my issue with that, is Caitlyn Clark, her games get ratings. She gets ratings. The WNBA draft, as a result, is going to get ratings. All those things. And no, I don't think it's ironic. She played great. I don't think it's ironic that she got the attention. I don't. She got the attention because she draws attention. Because she draws eyeballs. Because people care about her. This is Kem again, who wrote, I don't think it's a race thing, but all the hype, even after she lost, is yet still ironic. There'll be plenty of... LeBron James has lost in the championship many times. And he gets a lot of attention. Again, Colorado lost more than they won, right? They got a lot of attention. It's okay. People care. And she was headed to the WNBA. So she got attention because of that. She's going to get attention today. Get used to it. You got to get used to her getting attention just in general. It is what it is. Kel says, I don't think it was all about the WNBA draft because her teammates were up there with her as well. Well, she's showing love to her teammates. Her teammates are her friends. So she brought them along with her. I don't think that was strange either. I don't think there's anything strange or weird about it. I don't think there's anything ironic about it. I think it's all self-explanatory and easy to understand and digest. Caitlyn Clark is popular. She is famous. She's the most famous women's basketball player of all time. The most well-known women's basketball player of all time at this point. So the attention is equivalent to that. It's in line with that. There's nothing else to it. Nothing else cute about it. Nothing else strange about it. Nothing like that at all. Nothing like that at all. Just because she's a needle mover. She draws a lot of attention. It is what it is. Really. It is what it is. It's not any more complex than that. I don't know why the Twitter thing didn't work very well. But some of y'all are still finding it from over there. So I appreciate you clicking on the actual link and hopping in here. It should just generally feed itself. Unless maybe somebody could explain to me why that might not have worked on the back end here. See, edit. It says I'm live. I didn't use too many characters. So, not sure why that went off the way it did. Anyhow, I don't think that's strange. And I think the attention is now on the WNBA. DP37 says, I'm a Reese fan, but especially support Clark because I'm hoping she can be a transformative figure for women's sports. She is a transformative figure for women's sports already. I think that's done. I don't think there's, any question about that. She has changed the game. I mean, I did an episode about Caitlyn Clark saying that she's the Michael Jordan of women's sports, and I really believe that. Not in the sense that she's accomplished what Michael Jordan accomplished or anything to that extent, but given that she is a transformative figure, she's changed the way people view women's sports. The hype around the WNBA draft is going to be on a different level because of Caitlyn Clark and because of what Caitlyn Clark has done and accomplished and the amount of attention that Caitlyn Clark has drawn. There's just no question about that. Doug, the developer, says, true, Robin, this isn't a Jeremy Lin thing where people cared so much about Lin solely because he was Asian. I don't think people cared about Lin solely because he was Asian either. I mean, there was a lot that went into Jeremy Lin. He played for the New York Knicks. That was one. Two, he was an underdog. He came from nowhere and took the league by storm. Three, he was Asian. That did factor in. I'm not saying that wasn't a factor, but it wasn't the only factor. It wasn't just because he was Asian. It was because he was a G League guy that came in and started dominating the league that no one had heard of on the team in New York City. Well, Caitlyn Clark has now been doing this for a couple years straight. She ain't just show up. She ain't just spin around the block. And it's going to elevate the sport. It's going to elevate the sport. Because, even yesterday, Michael Chase jokes are one thing, right? But even yesterday, I was telling somebody when I was talking about this show and some of the stuff that I've been covering, and I'm still figuring this out. I'm still working on the exact formula and everything like that will go along with what I cover, how I cover. And there is a part of me, and just full transparency, like where I wonder, should I lean into one of these niche buckets or, cover things in more general status, the things that I like. And the thing that's made it harder for me is that I've gotten good return on the videos I do. Like I did a video on the Drake and Kendrick thing over the weekend that really blew up on TikTok. I do videos on basketball. I do videos on wrestling, obviously. I hope you guys checked out the SmackDown show I did with Denise on Friday. That was really well received. So it's harder for me to say, oh, I'm just going to push all my chips into one bucket. But a lot of the audiences that get developed by people are because they push their chips into one bucket. But one of the things I've been intrigued by is the growth of women's sports and women's basketball in particular, because the space is not as saturated. And I obviously love basketball. So I mentioned women's basketball as something I was possibly interested in covering and doing and focusing on to a certain extent. And this is a nice guy I liked a lot, but he said like, oh yeah, you could get like the one audience member. And I was like, it boggles my mind that people still think that way, considering the fact that the women's tournament game, the championship, outrated the men's by 4 million people. It wasn't a minor thing. 4 million people. And now that star power from Caitlyn Clark is going over to the WNBA. And I think you will see that translate there. I don't think it's a one-off. I don't think it's a random deal. I don't think it's something that is here today, gone tomorrow. I think you see a transformative figure. And that's why the WNBA draft will be covered by everybody. It's why the attention that she's getting is not going to stop. And it's why it's going to be a big deal for a good long period of time. This is not a here today, gone tomorrow thing. This is not a flash in the pan. It's a transformative moment for women's sports, for sports in general. And I don't think women's basketball is ever going to be viewed the same. Now, you're also going to get, Angel Reese. She's a factor in this because she has this charisma and star power. So she's a factor in it. You've got other women of late, like Sabrina Ionescu, who was in the All-Star game, of course, and that factors in. And you've got, all sorts of things like that factor in to the equation. Paige Becker is on the way in the future. But Caitlyn Clark is that change agent. She is the one that garnered all the attention last year, that led to the Angel Reese thing being a moment, that is now the star going into the WNBA draft. That's why she was on Saturday Night Live, because she's her. Like we like to say, he's him, she's her. And it's backed up by her play. I mean, the idea that she didn't win the championship again is silly. She played great. And that is, it's not because she lost. It's not because she lost that, or it's not because of her that they lost. Basketball is still a team sport. Everybody talks about South Carolina, probably isn't naming the players from South Carolina's team. And Caitlyn Clark's team, Iowa, was probably in there because of a specific reason. Her, right? Because she's on the team. That's why they were able to make it. DP37's back in the chat, said, have you thought of dedicating particular days of the week to different topics? Just a thought. I'm sure you've done lots of strategizing. No, that's a good one. Somebody's brought that same topic up to me, and that is something I've kicked around in my head a little bit. That would be something that requires trial and error. The other part of it is that sometimes things happen that I want to react to, and that I want to give attention to in the moment. And therefore, it would screw up the plans if, like, say this if I was doing women's basketball on Wednesdays and the draft was on Monday, right? But it is an idea that I've kicked around in my head. But let me know what you guys like the most. Everybody's been joining and the show's been growing, so it's not a negative in that sense. I mean, people seem to like the format I've been rocking with, But I do wonder sometimes if taking it to the next level requires going all in on one topic or not. Maybe not. Maybe it's I get jobs in a bunch of different buckets too. I'm not sure. But in the meantime, I've been talking about what I think is the most interesting on that specific day. And again, Caitlyn Clark has been good to me. Same reason she's on Saturday Night Live. She's been good to me in the sense where every episode I've done on Caitlyn Clark has done well. So it has allowed me to and has certainly helped me lean in that direction whenever there's news around her. But I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Again, that's why she was on Saturday Night Live. It's nothing nefarious. It was nothing to criticize any of the women who did win. They won. You can't take that away. They beat her. South Carolina won. Dawn Staley, South Carolina are the champs. They'll always be the champs in 2024. And Caitlyn Clark will never win a college basketball championship. Facts. But it doesn't take away from the fact that she elevated Iowa to that position. It doesn't take away from the fact that she was the best player on the court in every game she played. And it doesn't take away from the fact that she is going to be the biggest star in the WNBA immediately. So I don't really know what else to say about that. People can continue to weigh in. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of comments on the show already about that. I'll circle back to it if people want to pick back up on it. But I did want to get to some of the NBA stuff as well, including the Knicks yesterday winning a game that puts them in a worse spot. And let me be very clear. About something. I'm not criticizing the Knicks for winning the game. I would never do that. I do not believe in losing on purpose. I do not believe in tanking. Like you could tank as an organization in the sense where you don't have a great team and you're willing to let that be the case for a year so that you can get better draft position. That is fine. That's a different sort of tanking than outright attempting to lose a game, which we have seen, especially in recent times. So I want to make it very clear that I am not criticizing the Knicks for winning the game. The basketball gods do not treat you kindly if you don't attempt to win games. I mean, it seemed like the Cavs went the other direction. It's just unfortunate for the Knicks that in winning that game, they probably put themselves in a tougher position because now they will be facing the Heat or the Sixers. And that's not an easy first round opponent, no matter which way you slice it. Obviously, with Philadelphia, Joel Embiid had missed a big chunk of the season. That's the only reason the Sixers are in the position that they're in, because Joel Embiid missed a huge chunk of the season. If he did not, the Sixers would not be seated where they are right now. I think everybody can say that fairly strongly and with authority and without, thinking that they're speaking out of turn, right? It is what it is. And then there's the Miami Heat, who people still don't want to believe in and still seem to want to sleep on. All the time you hear people say the NBA doesn't matter until the playoffs. Yet then they're going to ignore what the Heat have done in the playoffs, which is 3 of the last 4 seasons. The Miami Heat have either made the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals. It's only 1 year in these last 4 seasons where the Heat did not wind up in one of those places. So why am I to think they can't do it again? When they've got playoff Jimmy Butler, who, in my mind, is at worst, top 5 player in basketball. At worst, playoff Jimmy Butler, a top 5 player in basketball. Maybe even better than that. He's done it over and over again. It's not a random thing. It's not a thing that, is here today, gone tomorrow, a fluke, whatever. It's been repeatable. We call him playoff Jimmy for a reason. Bam Adebayo is one of the more versatile players in the league. He could score some off the pick pop action, little pull-ups. Can handle the ball for a big, and obviously defensively, he's incredibly versatile. Tyler Hero's back in the lineup for them. And Tyler Hero is a scorer, a bona fide scorer at the NBA level, who they didn't even have for the playoffs last year. And then Eric Spoelstra is a proven coach. So I would almost rather see Philadelphia than Miami, I think. But I wouldn't want to see either of them in the first round of the freaking playoffs, because the Sixers should not be where they're at. They're only there because Embiid was hurt. And the Heat have proven that they're better than where they're seated right now. So, again, I'm not criticizing the Knicks for winning a game. They did the right thing. They did the right thing. As Kevin says, they're not ducking nobody. They aren't. They're not ducking any smoke. I'm not saying that. But I am saying they may have lost by winning. Unfortunately. It's just, doesn't mean they won't win the series. But I do think when you get into the playoffs, it's a little bit more difficult because teams focus in on just you. And that's where they might miss Julius Randle a little bit. Might miss Julius Randle because he's another guy who could take some of the attention off of Jalen Brunson. Another outlet, another valve to score the basketball. He hasn't done the best with the attention on him at times, has Randle. But nevertheless, he's a darn good player. He's a darn good player, and I think they'll miss him in the playoffs. And you also have to remember, Tom Thibodeau's teams have a habit of exceeding or maximizing their capabilities in the regular season. He did that back with Chicago. I mean, those Bulls teams consistently finished with really good records, and they weren't exactly a playoff juggernaut. And again, that's not a diss. It's like a good thing to make the most of something. But it is a different game in the playoffs. And Thibodeau doesn't know any other speed but pedal to the metal, foot on the gas. He doesn't know any other speed. He doesn't know, another gear than that. And if you've done that all season, well, then you don't have another gear when you get into the postseason. And that's, I think, the issue that the Knicks could face when they get to the playoffs. Regardless, they've had a great season. I just would not want any parts of either Miami or Philadelphia when it comes to the postseason. And that's going to be one of the teams that they see. Not advocating tanking. Like I saw, who is it, Greeny today, say the Lakers should tank to avoid the Nuggets. And do I think the Lakers can beat the Nuggets in a playoff series? No, I don't. I don't think anybody's beating the Nuggets in a playoff series, but here was the logic behind it, I guess.
I know that it is controversial, and I know that it flies in the face of absolutely everything that the spirit of competition was born to create. And you just said, Herman Edwards, you play to win the game. The Lakers should not play tomorrow night. They should not play LeBron. They should not play AD. They do not want to be the 7 seed. You want to be the 8. I'm taking my chances in a one and done at home against either Sacramento or Golden State and go in against the very young OKC Thunder in round 1 instead of going into the buzzsaw that is Denver. I think it is worth the risk.
Everything you said is right, except for one thing. You put yourself into a one-off situation.
So I agree with Tim Legler there. You don't want to put yourself into a situation where you can go home with one loss. It's never a good idea to willingly sign up for that situation. Also, you don't want to piss off the basketball gods. And by deliberately losing, you piss off the basketball gods. That's why I was very careful to say I'm not mad that the Knicks won the game. Not mad that they won the game. I don't disagree with the philosophy of winning the game. I just think it may have worked out, unfortunately, for them. Kem's back in here. Is that how you say your name? I want to make sure I say it appropriately. Would you say teams underachieve to avoid number one matchup? Well, I think the Cavs is a good example that they underachieved yesterday to avoid a specific matchup. And generally that'll come back to bite you. But the Cavs fell they could have beaten the Hornets yesterday, and instead they lost. So that slots them into the matchup with the Magic in the first round, instead of maybe a matchup that they didn't want to be involved in. I can't tell you the motives for every team, but we've certainly seen teams strategically rest. We've seen teams, decide whether a game is going to be important to them or not. I mean, Mikal Bridges even talked about it today. The Nets did not really recover fully from that game against the Bucks, where they sat everybody in a winnable game. They sat a bunch of people as if to punt the game, but it was weird because Bridges has that consecutive game streak, so he didn't sit. And because he didn't sit, it was more awkward when he didn't come back in the game, nor did Cam Thomas. So they basically threw that game, and they can't say otherwise. And their season went into a tailspin after that. Can you say it was a direct cause and effect? I don't know if you can, but it certainly wasn't good. And so, yeah, we've seen that. Again, I think tanking in general usually happens via the management of the team deciding we're not going to put the best product possible, or we're not going to exhaust our resources in the meantime because we think we could get a better draft pick. And that's what tanking is, rather than teams not trying to win a given game. But with matchups and seedings, you might see certain games punted, yes. And the Knicks, some Knicks fans may have advocated for punting that game yesterday. Instead, they didn't. And I'm not criticizing them for it, but they wound up in a worse seed as a result. That's all. But hey, they win. And that's the mentality of a winning team, and a team that believes in itself, that it doesn't matter who the opponent is. You're going to go out and do your thing. So credit to them in that respect. A couple other things to get to before I roll out of here today. Make sure you guys get the comments in like you have been doing, of course. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, please. You can comment after the fact as well, but please hit that like button for me, comment for me, share for me, all those things. If you're not aware, the show is now available in podcast form, so you can grab it on iTunes, Spotify, places like that. And then, as I asked that question earlier in the show, if there's specific things you generally like, you like to hear me talk about, you don't like to hear me talk about as much, you want me to lean into more, you have any ideas, you want to be on the show, all that feedback is appreciated. It really is. All that feedback is appreciated. So please share with me, what you can. And I like that we have Kem in here today. I don't know if I've seen her in the chat before, and she's been putting a lot of comments in. I think it was amazing for the fans in the city for them to get to number 2. Huge deal. 50 wins. There you go. Let's go Knicks. I'll root for the Knicks in the playoffs. Why not? I know I'm a Nets fan, but it's okay. I'd rather root for where I'm at than, some other place. But Miami and or the Sixers is going to be a tough hill to climb for sure. Another tough hill to climb is Mount Kendrick, and Drake is finding that out right now. So the Drake song, such a weird release or not release or leak over the weekend. It took away some of the impact because the original version was flat to me. I heard the better version a little later, and I liked it a little better. My favorite line on there is the one at Metro, where he says, just shut up and play the drums. That was my favorite line on the track, really, the most dismissive and effective line I think Drake had. And Drake is setting up this narrative like it's 20 against 1. And he put out the Kill Bill meme and everything like that. But really, it's not. It's just Kendrick and Drake. That's all that matters. In fact, I'll play you the short I did on that, because sometimes I think it's effective for me to just play what I've already done to sort of sum up my thoughts before we get into it a little deeper. But here is the video I did yesterday on this very topic. Drake doesn't need to kill Bill, Ross, Metro, Future, Weeknd, Rocky, or anyone else. He just needs to kill Kenny. While I appreciate the me against the world mentality and willingness to go at everyone who threw shots at him, that Ross ish was corny, and Drake already clears him. I did appreciate the dismissive line of Metro about playing drums, but we all know who Drake's real opponent is, and he certainly took aim at K-Dot. I personally think Kendrick's lines about music were more effective than his about size, and the label stuff, well, yeah, I don't think Kendrick's on that deal anymore, and Drake used to be on a bad one. But Drizzy also invoked Kendrick's wife, which shows he's willing to fight dirty, which was interesting since Kendrick is hard to diss, given he stays private and his discography is immaculate. But now Drake needs to be ready for anything whenever his actual competitor, Kung Fu Kenny, gets done doing push-ups and pulls back up to take control of this battle. Because Kendrick Lamar is the one who went at Drake. We could talk about the teaming up. We could talk about Metro and Future. We could talk about Rocky. We could talk about Ross jumping in. None of that matters. Ross's diss was bleh. It did nothing for me. I mean, in fact, the comments he's done on social media, I think, have been more effective, or the talking he did at the end of the track. But I don't want to hear about plastic surgery or Drake being a white. It's so funny how many comments I've gotten under that video calling me white boy as if I don't realize I'm a white boy. Like, I've known my whole life. I'm a white boy. I may, dabble into other cultures or whatnot. As a big basketball fan and a big rap fan, guilty. I grew up in a place where I was a token white boy on the basketball team. So, and I played in a lot of courts where I was called white boy because I was the white boy. I was in a lot of clubs or spots, hip hop spots where I was the white boy. I lived in a place where I was the white boy for 8 years, where I was the only white boy around, and I was white boy. In fact, I've married into a family where it's a little bit different because it's like Indian and not black, but where I'm the only white boy. So I know what it's like to be the white boy in a spot. So it didn't offend me that Rick Ross called Drake white boy, or that people in the comment section would call me white boy. I just don't think it's an effective diss. I don't think it does anything to Drake. And you could see it. It's going to be brushed off. The Rocky thing, too, is piling on. Weeknd, even, like, Weeknd's a singer. He and Drake might have history. But that's not going to be it. This battle is about Kendrick and Drake. And Drake's lines toward Kendrick on that song, he went for him. There's no question. He went for him. I don't think the size stuff is that effective. Okay, Kendrick's small. He's not a big dude. So what? I don't think that really hurts. The label thing was clever, and the drop down and give me 50 is clever and catchy, and people could repeat that. But like I said in that video, I'm pretty sure Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was Kendrick's last record on that deal. And Drake used to get mocked for being on the Cash Money deal and having to split up his money that way with Birdman and the like. What else was on there? What did he say? What's a prince to a king? Okay, I get it. King of pop and all those things. And obviously a prince literally being the son to a king. And then he took the shot at Kendrick's wife, or the insinuation, I guess, that Kendrick's wife maybe cheated on with a bodyguard. That's what I took from that, which showed he was willing to play dirty. But you got to remember, Kendrick has been waiting for this moment. He didn't put out like that without expecting a response from Drake and then knowing he's going to respond. So that's what we're waiting for now. That's what we're waiting for now. And I think when we see that, it's going to be something. And I don't think it's going to be mistaken for AI or whatnot. Like I've seen all these AI tracks out there because Kendrick is coming. And when he does, you're not going to miss it. You're not going to miss it. And I thought Kendrick's lines was an economy of words, but I thought they were effective in the sense of he went for the music and the artistry. I mean, that the whole Prince line is, your best work is a light pack. Prince outlived Mike Jackson. Your best work is a light pack. That bar to me, through the end, for all the dogs getting buried, is okay with all these nines. You're going to see the Pet Cemetery are the hardest ones spit in this battle so far. Danny Adams says Prince was Michael Jackson's son. Okay. Not the Prince that Kendrick's referring to, though. That's a different Prince. Not the same one. Kevin says it was a good Saturday in the Zwicker residence. My girlfriend made me OVO cookie to celebrate Drake's diss. When did you know it was real? When did she start baking it? How did you know? Was it AI cookies or real cookies? You know, that's funny. No, but we'll see. I mean, look, I appreciate a good rap battle as much as anybody. I'm trying to be fair in this. I was probably a little harsh on Drake when I heard the initial leak, but part of that was the way it came out too, right? Like, I think if it had been released in a different manner, it could have been better. Unfortunately, it was not released. I don't know if that was on purpose or an accident or why it still hasn't been released at this point. I cannot answer that, but that's where we're at with it right now. If you got any more comments on that, you can weigh in. Danny says also the stuff about Kendrick being small is more funny than trying to be lyrical. Yeah, but it's not an effective diss, is what I'm saying. If that's what you've got. See, here's the thing about Kendrick. He's hard to diss because he's very private. Like, we don't know that much about Kendrick. He's not like out there. And his body of work speaks for itself. Like, even his worst albums to me are always interesting. Like, I'm not a huge To Pimp a Butterfly guy, but it's interesting and ambitious. And the last project, same thing, which I liked too, but I don't like, it's not Damn or Good Kid, Mad City, but it's still interesting. Like, you could see the effort that goes into it. So You Wear Small Shoes is not going to do it for me. Kevin says, when I heard the final version, it was real. Mr. Lamar is on the clock. Kevin back in the chat. Pusha T blew Drake out of the stratosphere with the hiding the sun line. Drake is not this. Yeah, that would mean. Look, even the hiding the sun thing, like, I guess is gossipy, but it was so shocking and effective. And the fact that Drake never was able to reply was ultimately the truest test there and the truest indicator of how that battle was going to go. Kevin says Drake's been wanting to get active. We'll see. Kendrick's been waiting in the wings. No question about that. Continue to get the chats in, guys, please. I appreciate all of the comments. Pretty active comment section today. Like, subscribe to the channel. You can comment later. I will get to those comments later as well. But please make sure you are hitting that like button for me. Hit the like and subscribe. Not how the YouTubers do it. Sorry, I apologize whenever I do that. It's just funny because I see my kids watch some of their YouTube stuff, and you get that all the time. But yeah, so that's that topic. I also just wanted to quickly, if it is indeed true, wish Rhea Ripley a speedy recovery. She has been a great women's champion, a force in the women's division. There's rumors or reports, I guess, that she's injured and may even have to give up her championship. That would be unfortunate. This is my brutality, I would say. I'm sure whenever she gets back, she'll be on top. Mommy's always on top. I'm hoping it is a work. In fact, please check out the new SmackDown reaction show I'm doing over on Denise Salcedo's channel. She was great. She reached out to me. We, had a good show on Friday, I thought. A lot of people watched, seemed to be received positively, but I will be doing that every Friday night with her. The OVO goons were asking me what's up with your boy when they saw you Twitter hating, says Kevin. Yeah, I mean, look, I there's one guy on Twitter, Jonas the Prince or something, He and I go back and forth on Drake all the time. I'm a little bit of a Drake hater. I'll admit that. I'm a little bit of a Drake hater. But I've also listened to all of his stuff, and I appreciate the fact that he clapped back, and I respect where his standing in the game. No question about that. Gotta respect his standing in the game. Let's go back to DP37, who says, "Have you seen the WNBA ladies' outfits? They knew the assignment." Let me see. Let me see if I can find some of the outfits out there. Let's see. I saw Caitlyn Clark. Let me just search WNBA fits. Maybe somebody put a compilation together. Here is Cameron Brink at the WNBA draft. So you can see this fit. Technology is really, we got any graphic designers out there? Because I could use an overlay for this show. For the, what's an overlay? How do you say that? Like the box essentially that I'm in. I mean, all the other streaming stuff I can fire around that. But if anybody has good graphic design skills and wouldn't mind tossing me an overlay, that would be a good look for sure. WNBA fits. Here we go. Angel Reese. I like this one. This is a good one. There's Angel Reese. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that a lot, actually. She looks good. As the heterosexual male, I will tell you that she looks good in that photo. Am I allowed to say that? No. Sometimes I don't know what the rules are anymore. I feel like it's a pretty benign comment, but nevertheless, just making sure. I don't mean to offend anyone else by saying that I am a heterosexual male who found that to be a good-looking outfit from Angel Reese by Angel Reese on draft day. Where it's Caitlyn Clark was in Prada, I think I saw. Let me see if we can pull that up. Here is Caitlyn Clark's outfit for the WNBA draft. So there's a few of them. I was able to get a few of them up there and on there for the show. If you're listening, sorry. If you're listening later, you're going to have to search for yourself or watch the WNBA draft. Shout out to my guy, Ryan Rucco, who I know will be doing the draft coverage. He's really done really well for himself doing that and got in on the right time. I just looked back at the stream and I see like fireworks going off behind me. I don't even know how people do that. I don't know if that was for a specific comment that I made or something along those lines. But it looks like doing another Caitlyn Clark show is going to pay off, at least on the YouTube side of things. Not on the X and the Twitter machine because that link was broken or whatever. But some of you guys still found the show. I'll post the full link out there so that they can get in there. Because generally I get a pretty big audience over on Twitter. That's why I was a little distracted at the beginning of the show. Generally I get a pretty big audience over there because that's where my following started, I guess. On social media. That's where I spent the most time, build up the biggest audience to begin with. Before it's sort of the origin story of this show in a way, because I did so many social media videos for SI that did really well across social media, but didn't give me any following or any clicks. And then in the last couple of months, I've really started building my own social channels, and I've already seen like significant growth on Instagram and TikTok and of course here on YouTube where this show started. Any other comments? Make sure you get them in. That was the content I had planned for today. If you comment later, I will get back to you. Like, subscribe to the channel. But that's what I had on the rundown. Like I said, I hope I gave you guys enough heads up. I scheduled this in advance to try and give everybody enough heads up. But I'll eventually find out the perfect formula, I promise. But in the meantime, I want to make sure I'm consistent and get the shows in when I can. And I had some stuff going on this evening. Plus, I don't like going against things that the fan base is interested in. So I don't know if I want to go like, NBA playoff reaction shows this week. I don't want to go, or I certainly don't want to go head to head with some of that stuff. Like tonight would have been the WNBA draft and Raw. And obviously I've been covering women's basketball and Caitlyn Clark heavy on this show. And I obviously also cover professional wrestling, WWE, heavy on this show. So it didn't make sense to fire this up at 8 o'clock, let's say tonight, like has been the most common time. But you guys have been making it out whenever I've been doing it, as long as I give you the heads up. It's just been the shows where I like sprung it on you that didn't really see the same level of participation and engagement, and that's my fault, not yours. But on the ones where I've announced it in advance, you all have been here, so appreciate that. As always, I'll keep you updated with anything new, anything that changes. In the meantime, if you got any more comments, send them in. If not, that'll do it for today's show. That Beavis and Butthead sketch was incredible, by the way. That was very, very funny. Doug, the developer, I missed this comment earlier. Hilarious indeed, but you have to admit it's even funnier because Heidi broke. Yeah, I mean, anytime one of the professional cast members breaks during a sketch, it's probably pretty good. And the makeup and the costume design, or whatever you want to call it, the way they had Beavis and Butthead dressed up, let's just put it that way. The looks of Beavis and Butthead were amazing for that sketch. That's an all-time SNL sketch at this point. That's as good as it gets. Hopefully I don't have to remove that from the show later, edit it out, because it was really funny. It was really funny. I mean, I'm a Beavis and Butthead fan. Mike Judge, very funny. Like, if you've never seen Idiocracy, obviously, I don't know if you know, but Office Space was also Mike Judge, same Beavis and Butthead guy. And then there was Beavis and Butthead Do America, and the Hoover Dam. It's like, I have a question. Is this a goddamn? Yeah, I don't know. That cracked me up. I have jury duty tomorrow, by the way. So, Danny says there are new episodes of Beavis and Butthead on the Paramount streaming channel. I did not know that. I have jury duty tomorrow, so I do not know how that will affect my schedule. Hopefully, it won't be too long, because I got a few more minutes today, so I'll share this story before I get out of here, since I am going to jury duty tomorrow. And I'm saying this in advance, hoping that it is not the same as the last time I had to go to jury duty. So the last time I went to jury duty, well, not the last time, because I did do jury duty once here in New Jersey, and it wasn't as bad as this. It was just like a day, and then I was dismissed. But when the last time I did jury duty in New York City, I was selected for a trial, and it was a murder trial. It was a murder trial, and I wasn't off from work for it. Wasn't off from work because I was doing 4 to 6 in the morning. The radio show was 4 to 6 in the morning at the time. So I didn't want to take however long off to do jury duty. I went to work, and then I went to jury duty because I was done at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning. Whenever I was done, I could make it there in time for jury duty. Anyway, it was never in question whether the guy who was on trial had committed the murder or killed the other guy. I guess it wasn't in question whether he had committed murder, but it wasn't in question whether he had killed the other guy. His defense was self-defense. And the first few months of the trial were relatively boring. It was just a lot of like surveillance footage. And these were like two crackheads. They were in like a halfway house or whatever. And we would just watch footage of them going from one room to the other room, one room to the other room. And then we'd have people come in and tell us, about various drug use things and cop story, whatever. A lot of testimony that eventually then you get to the actual like crux of the issue. And basically, if you remember Ren and Stimpy, these two guys were like Ren and Stimpy, where Ren, which one was Ren? Which one's the little one? The little like one that took charge. Was that Ren from Ren and Stimpy? I think it was. Yes. So Ren was the one who got killed by Stimpy. In every interaction, the skinny guy was taking charge and bossing the other guy around. But it turns out that Stimpy killed Ren, stabbed him through the heart. Now, no one had any footage of that. It took place inside of one of the apartments. And the murder weapon, or the death weapon, was inside as well. So it was not, he did not leave to retrieve it. It was something that was already there. Now, the motive in question was like this insurance payout, but the money remained in the apartment. It was ransacked, but the money did not leave. So all of those things helped support a possible self-defense story. Now, the testimony did show that it would be hard to deliver that wound without doing it purposely. That was hard, but the bar for the charges were high. I think if they had brought lesser charges, they may have been able to hit them. Nevertheless, it was the deliberations are what took a long time. And there was one member of the jury who was obstinately going to find this person guilty no matter what. Didn't matter what the rules were. Like when they said you couldn't use a piece of evidence in your decision, she didn't care. And it was right before a holiday weekend, after we had already been there for like 3 months, when she doesn't show up. Apparently she had thrown her back out or something. And I was pissed. Not just because it was a holiday weekend, but because, this is going to delay this case. And I just didn't, the day before we had spent hours and hours arguing with this specific person. And I didn't believe her that she was injured or what had happened. So I waited around and I said, I'm not leaving until I could speak to the judge. So they bring me in to speak to the judge and the lawyers. And I said, I wish I could tell juror number 11, let's just say, I wish I could tell her, I wish she was here so that I could say, I know she's lying about her back injury, but I cannot convict her beyond a reasonable doubt of lying about her back injury. And then a more soft-spoken member of the jury wrote a handwritten note to the judge expressing a similar sentiment. And that led to, when we came back, the judge dismissed the juror and made it 11. And we settled that day. Verdict came in. And then there was a couple of guys on the jury who really seemed to enjoy this process, because they came back in after the verdict and they were like re-deliberating the case. And I remember walking to the bathroom because I just was finished. And I said, if y'all two are still talking about this when I come back out, we're going to have problems. And that's my jury duty story. But, this was a 3-month process, at least 3-4 months, where I was going to work from 4 to 6 in the morning and then going to jury duty. So I hope my jury duty tomorrow is not like that. I'll let you know if it alters the schedule for this show at all. If not, enjoy the WNBA draft tonight. Caitlyn Clark finally headed to the W, which is the beginning of something big. Enjoy Monday Night Raw. Hopefully Rhea Ripley is not actually injured, but if she is, get well soon, mommy, and enjoy the NBA playoffs that are looming. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Get your comments in. I will respond to comments after the fact, and I should be back tomorrow on this same Robin channel. See ya.